Well, Mark and Sienna, welcome to 700 Club Canada.
Hey, thank you for having us. Good to be here.
Hi.
Well, I'm pleased to meet you, Sienna. I've known your dad for a little while, and I just want to first ask you, Mark, tell us a little of your faith story. I know it could take us some time, but in a nutshell, how did you come to follow Jesus?
I came to follow Jesus. I was in high school, and a guy had come up to me in one of our classes and told me about Jesus. And I had heard a little bit in summer camp growing up. I didn't grow up going to church or anything. God wasn't really like a conversation around the dinner table as much. And so I finally kind of started investigating Jesus. I wanted to really believe something that was like rational and philosophically made sense and historically made sense and scientifically made sense. So I started exploring Christianity, reading the Bible, reading the Gospels, and I was just compelled by Jesus. And so I was, this 17-year-old kid, smoking a pack a day and hanging out with my friends. And I was like, oh, this Jesus guy, he's serious. And so gave my life to him. And about 2 years later, finally walked into a church when I was 19 and didn't really want to go to church because I thought it was going to be like, just smell like mothballs and be old shaggy carpet and everyone would kind of be old and out of touch. And finally walked in when I was 19 and just met some awesome people there. And a short time after that, actually, a bunch of them came up and said, not only, are we happy that you're a Christian, we think you should actually become a pastor and a preacher and a teacher. And I'm like, why would I do that? And so I went to Bible college and started exploring that. And 20 years later, here I am. So
Wow. I mean, that God does miracles, right, Mark?
Indeed, yes. If you look at my life, it's pretty well definitive proof.
Yeah. Well, it's so great. You and your wife, Erin, and a small team of people planted Village Church in 2010. It's now this multi-site churches with locations across Canada. But you are a busy guy. You're a leader, an author, a pastor, and husband. You got 3 girls, and here's Sienna with you. How do you balance all this and prioritize your family?
Well, you kind of integrate it. And so, as a family, we host the youth group at our house. We talk about the books that I'm writing together. If Sienna's doing music, we all kind of celebrate it. It becomes part of all of our lives. So you try to integrate, ministry and work and family and life versus trying to separate it out from one another. And I think that's helpful. But yeah, it's just leaning on the Lord, but also leaning on a great team of people. Like oftentimes people talk about Village and they're like, oh, Mark, you were the Lone Ranger who went out there and that's not true. We had like the best team on the planet. We continue to have the best staff on the planet and they run with it. They carry so much so that I can do what I do and then they flourish in what they do. So everyone kind of plays their part, which is, I think, the good image that the Bible gives us. Kind of, you have a hand and an eye and everything. And you got to do your part, do it to the best of your ability. So that's how we try to kind of balance it all.
That's so good, Mark. I think that's a good word for a few people watching right now. Sienna, tell us a little about your faith story and why you started songwriting and why it's important to you.
Yeah, so when I was 4, I got a keyboard for Christmas. And I remember I was just singing on the piano and just like playing random notes on the keyboard. And then that night I taught myself an Adele song.
Wow.
Just by listening to the song. And then after that, I would just like write random little songs. And then when I was 10, I wrote a song called Take All of Me. And I released an EP shortly after that. And that song was like, I didn't realize how much people would like enjoy it and like be like, whoa, how did you write this? Because I was just like, it just came so easily to me. And so like whether I'm happy or disappointed or sad, like I kind of just sit on my piano and the words just come flooding out. And that's like where I really connect to God. And I think, that's like a big part of my faith.
Well, you know what? It's clearly that God's given you this gift. So I just want to say, I'm so glad you're using your gift, Sienna. Like never tuck it away anywhere. You just keep pressing into the gift that God's given you because it's clearly from him. And recently your dad did a sermon based on Psalm 41. Now, Mark, you called this sermon Change is Possible, and you asked Sienna to write a song based on Psalm 41. Well, what was the main message of that sermon?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on in the sermon, but it opens with this idea of blessed, are the weak, and kind of this concept, not only of weak, like, hey, I'm kind of down and I'm beaten up and I'm suffering in life. That's a big part of it. And that comes through in the song, kind of this isolation and, who will fight for me, kind of when no one's left to fight for me. And people, it seems like the world is against me and closing in on me. And there's this pressure. And where does my encouragement, my hope, my faith actually come from that can transcend my circumstances? That's kind of a big theme. But there's also this sense of like, there's a Hebrew word, in the psalm about weakness. And it's not just about that kind of weakness. It's actually about like, are you someone that doesn't know the answers? Meaning the answers to the deepest questions of our existence. Who are we? Where are we? What's the problem? What's the solution? What are our answers to that? And so, it's this great kind of pitch to all of us who are watching this, whether you're a Christian or not a Christian. Like, do you have the answers to the ultimate questions of human longing, of suffering, of what are you going to do about it, of God, of your existence? And really the song, ends by saying the only answer to all of these things in our life, why we're here, purpose, meaning, happiness, joy, is found in God, in Jesus.
Well, Sienna, your song is beautiful and it's titled Everlasting. Like, tell us what inspired you other than your dad asking you to write it.
Yeah, so my dad told me to write Psalm 41. And so I was reading through it and I read, heal me for I've sinned against you. And I was like, I want to like start with that and kind of go from there. And then I was just sitting on my piano and it just like all came flooding out. And I kind of wanted this to be like a song where people could listen to it and it could like encourage them and like realize that like no matter what, God is always fighting for you. And I feel like people need that reminder right now.
Yeah. Thank you, Sienna. I love the song.
So
I just affirm you. Mark, thank you for your example as a dad and as a leader. And I love what you said about integrating what you do in life with your family. So God bless your family. And here is Sienna's song, Everlasting.
Thanks.